Today is Yoga for Stress. This is our most gentle class, or one of our most gentle classes. This is not about building muscular strength so much as we do use it as a tool, but it is a gentle stay on the mat, not any difficult standing poses. This is about slowing down and really getting inside the body, locating places where weak muscles might be causing tension in other parts of our body, locating them, maybe strengthening them a little. We also do a little of telling our muscles what it feels to be tight so that we can let them go. Feel the opposite, feel the release of strength, the release of gripping, the release of tension. So we're going to do a bunch of this class seated. I have the chair here, so there are no prizes for sitting crisscross in a perfect yogi position. I can't even see you, so listen to your body. A lot of people are not comfortable in this position, especially if you have the shape of your pelvis is such, the connection of your hip bones is such that you have a little bit of roundness in your lower back. This is a bone thing. This is not a flexibility thing. So if you're more comfortable sitting on the seat, if you're like me, I have a little too flexible joints, and when I sit for too long, I tend to slide out of the joint. So I am choosing to use a cushion underneath my hips just to lift my hips a little bit above my knees. I'm going to demonstrate some of the poses on the chair and some of them seated so that you can choose which one works for you. Really, really, really listen to your body. If you're hitting a nerve, don't ignore that because you think you need to be the perfect yogi. You need to figure out the perfect pose and ignore that pain. Nerve pain is feedback. It's telling us to change the position. So let go of that idea of having a perfect pose and try to have just an internal experience of what's going on in your own body, a learning experience, a learning journey. So we're going to start seated, and we're going to think about how much we've evolved from the animal kingdom. So I read an article recently talking about how similar we are and how the difference between us and the animal kingdom based on our evolution is not as great as we like to think it is. So if you think about a squirrel or a deer or an animal, and they're constantly scanning their environment, constantly looking around for danger. We also evolved like that. When we were hunter-gatherers, we were always looking for danger. We were always scanning our environment. And we still have a lot of that in us, just underneath the surface, not really even cognitive. So we're going to think about our environment, where we're sitting today. Look around you. Maybe look at your environment, and you can't necessarily create a perfectly safe environment, but you can do things that make you feel safer in this moment, in this body, in this period of time. So look around your environment. Really see where you're at. Take in visually where you're at. Take in the door, the exit. Take in whatever is around you, things that might move, so that you know what they are. Take a really good look. And then take a listen. First to the sounds inside your space that are kind of normal inside your space. Listen to your sounds. And then see if you can look for some of the intermittent sounds that are outside of your space, a little bit further away, some of the ones that might be a little bit surprising when they come up. Find your sounds. You might be even able to hear some feedback of the people downstairs in our space. Notice that they are just sounds. Try to allow them to be just sounds rather than telling yourself what they are or whether they should or should not be there. And then if it's comfortable for you, bring your fingertips to touch. Allow your hands to drop into your lap. Allow your shoulders to soften and soften your eyes closed. First, see the back of your eyelids. And then begin to soften the eyelids. Notice any gripping around the shoulders, around the hips. Notice any gripping in the feet and in the face. And then find your breath and think about your breath. Not manipulating it in any way just yet. Just thinking about our breath. Only our breath. Think about this magical process that happens, drawing in fresh. And this exchange that happens in our body when we draw in the breath and it turns into precisely what we need. And then as we exhale, we get rid of all the things we no longer need. Breathing in fresh. Exhaling what we no longer need. Notice if the cognitive mind starts to give you little ideas. Oh, I really want to get rid of this burden. Maybe I can toss this burden out with my breath. And try to let the cognitive mind, try to have the cognitive mind let the reins go. Stop holding, stop gripping. Try not to understand the process so much as just experience the process. Breathing in fresh and sweeping away what's no longer needed. Imagine as your fingertips are touching, a little ball of energy is forming between your hands. A grounding ball of energy drawing you into the present moment, drawing you into this physical body, drawing you out of yesterday and tomorrow, right here, right now, in this body, in this moment, on this mat. We're in this chair. Notice perhaps the sensation of your hands feeling a little warmer. And thinking about that grounding sensation, landing in the present moment, in the now, on this space. Allow your hands to just land wherever they're drawn to. Maybe the legs, maybe the hips, maybe the torso, maybe the heart, maybe the face. And keeping the eyes closed, feel the sensation of your hands in this space. Internal physical experience. Single point focus to where your hands are touching your physical body. Whenever the cognitive mind pulls you away, just gently draw your focus back, not beating yourself up. Trying to let go of that idea of getting it right and just practicing having an experience. And soften the eyes open if they're closed. All right, and start to move and breathe gently with the spine first. Inhaling, lifting the sternum forward. Exhaling, hollowing out the belly. Inhale forward. Exhale back. Just starting to feel the spine. Bring the torso back to neutral and lift one shoulder at a time. Take the torso to sideways. So moving side to side with the spine and also lifting the shoulders. Start to take it a little more fluid, maybe rolling the shoulders one at a time, moving with the spine. A little more fluid, like you're a tree swaying in the breeze. Start to feel what feels right in your body in this moment. Moving with your breath, slowing it down and arriving in the now. Bring it back to neutral. Bring your hands to touch, interlace your fingers, pull your hands apart. So start to feel your hands. Take some movements through the hands and fingers. And then pulling the hands apart, take the chest side to side. Still that nice, slow, gentle breath. Reverse the palms, so press the palms away from you and push the arms, extend the arms. Lift the arms up overhead, watch for compensation in the lower back. So engage the core just a little if the back starts to fire up. Keep this movement in the shoulders. Engage in the shoulders, soft in the neck, soft in the face, lifting, lifting, lifting. And then release the fingers and take little slow circles, really slow circles with the wrists. Not flopping them around, but feeling every movement the wrist can make. Reverse the direction of the wrist. And then let the hands plop down. Find neutral with the spine. Take the arms out, shoulder height. Press the wall away from you and extend the arms, grow longer. Again, watching for compensation patterns in the low back. If the low back is firing up and cramping or doing work right now, pull the stomach towards the spine. Take some of the tension out of the back. Use the shoulders. And then bring the hands down, fingertips to point to the ground, still extending the arms. And then hands neutral, even with the shoulders. And we're going to work through the shoulders as if reversing patterns in our shoulders. So we're going to use the hands as guides, but we're really thinking about rolling the shoulder. The hand is going to flip, but it's more about the shoulder movement that we're looking for. So you're going to flip the right hand, look at it, and then spin, flip the left hand and look at it while the other hand reverses. So we're going to corkscrew the shoulders. Once you get the hang of this movement, start to take it a little more fluid. Start to have an experience in your own shoulders, your own holding patterns, perhaps even into the neck, into the low back. Just moving, freeing up the shoulders, as if undoing all of the patterns of our day-to-day movement. Letting go, freeing up the shoulders. And then bring our hands to prayer at heart center. Notice what is going on. Notice physically what is different, what is new, what is not, what is gripping, what is not. Find your breath. And then we're going to bring our legs open. If you're seated, you're going to bring your legs open. One thing I want you to watch for is if you're like this in your back, seated. When you open your legs, are you like this? If you are like this, Put something underneath your hips so that you can get up a little higher than your heels, or come on up to a chair. So you can come on up to a chair and open the legs. So find that space where you can begin to feel the inner thighs. And then start to just move, one knee at a time bends, start to move through the inner thighs. Moving the knee, opening up the legs. You can hold on to the chair. Lift up the spine, so try not to round. Try to lift and be long. And then sit back, legs open. So if you're seated on the ground, you can do this. But note, if you're seated on the ground, it's going to be a little bit easier if you're not at the fullest extension that your inner thighs can go. You may need to bring your legs in. You're going to get really tall in the spine. Pull the stomach towards the spine so we're active. Find the muscles in the stomach. Maybe even bring your fingertips to the stomach and remind your muscles which ones you want to use. You're going to lean back just a little to engage the core, and then you're going to lift the right leg and hold and hover, firing up the top of the right leg, watching for compensation patterns. So one of the things you may be doing is leaning all the way back and letting the back do the work. Try not to do that. We want strong core, and we want to use the top of the leg. So when we think about this is one of our running, walking muscles, fight or flight muscles. Use the muscle, feel it, perhaps even cramping or burning, and then little pulses up and down. Challenge the muscles. Try not to engage the back. Keep it in the core, keep it in the leg. Soft shoulders, soft face. And then lower the foot and shake it out. Shake the leg out, let the leg go. Return to open legs and moving left and right, bending through the legs, feeling left and right side. Noticing one side might be different than the other. And then set up again. So spine neutral and long. Engaged core. Lean back just a little so you're balanced. And then lift the left leg. Hold and hover. Watch for the back trying to do all the work. Lift and lengthen. Lift the sternum. Lift the crown of the head. Lift the left leg. Hold. Notice perhaps cramping. See mine's beginning to shake. Breathe and hold. And then little pulses, challenge the muscles. Find your breath, check in on your breath. Are you holding your breath? You're holding your face. Look for those compensation patterns in your neck and your low back. And then lower the leg, shake it out. Open the legs again, knee bends left and right side. Bring the feet back a little wider than the hips. So if you're seated, your legs are going to be bent, seated. If you're seated on the chair, your legs are going to be bent, seated. If you're seated on the cushion, your knees will be up. You're going to get long in the spine and lean back and balance. You're going to take one knee at a time, squeezing towards center. So we want to find the muscles. We're not flopping. Squeeze it towards center. Inhale as you open, exhale as you squeeze towards center. Inhale as you open, exhale as you squeeze. You can do this on a chair. I'm trying to find all of the muscles around the knee, in the thigh, around the hip. Bring it back to center. Get up nice and tall. with the spine. So really, really long. Imagine you could place little pockets of space between each vertebrae. You're grounded in the feet, but not gripping with the toes. Nice and long. Now we're gonna take, same if you're seated. Your spine is long, your feet are on the ground if you're seated on a chair. We're going to take twisting motions, a little bit more forceful. So we're working with our breath, and we're going to work with breathing in fresh and squeezing it out. So we're going to twist. So try to feel grounded in the feet, long in the spine, and we're going to twist from the rib cage up. So we want the base to be kind of solid. It's not moving around. We want to twist from the rib cage up. We're going to bring our arms up, fists engaged. So we're a little bit stronger, fists engaged. Our inhale is center, and our forceful exhale is a twist. So inhale, center, exhale, out the mouth. Inhale, center, exhale. So one of the things to think about as you're making this movement is to watch for your compensation patterns and your competition with yourself. So maybe you really want to get really far. You want to do it perfectly. You want to get that twist really out. Notice if you're pushing into a foot, if you're pushing into a hip, if you're really trying to squeeze, and ask yourself, who are you competing with? Inhale, center, forceful exhale. If this gets too much, take a break. Take some nice long slow breaths, and then return. Inhale, center. Bring it back to center. Bring your legs to wherever your legs and hips are comfortable. Hands to prayer heart center. Maybe even close your eyes and take a moment to notice any sensations that are arising throughout the body. Breathe. If you practice with me often, we connect with our breath often by inhaling up and bringing our prayer down to our hearts. Today, we are going to switch it. So have a different experience. We're going to inhale, send our prayer over our heads. Exhale, open. Back to prayer. Inhale, push the prayer up. Exhale, open. Arms engaged, chest open. Prayer back to heart. Watching for those compensation patterns in the low back. Try not to be gripping in the back. Soften your face. Soften your neck. Bring your prayer back to your heart. Have an internal experience. Notice what is present. And whenever we notice what is present, there are no wrong answers. If today you're feeling particularly glum and all you can think about is that inner critic beating yourself up for not being good enough, that's just there. Notice it. If today the cognitive mind is swirling and whirling and pulling you back to work and children and family and things to do, that is what it's doing. Notice it's there. If today you're having a particularly calm and shining day, notice that also. The practice of yoga is to get to know all these parts of ourselves so that we're less surprised and less controlled by these parts of ourselves when they arise. We know what the emotions do to us physically. We know what the thoughts do. We know what the ego does when it arises. We get to know them so that we're less controlled by all of these reactions to our environment. And then we're going to move into Malasana pose. A little bit more challenging than we usually do in a Yoga for Stress class, but I'm going to show you how you can do it in many different ways. So if you have blocks, grab your blocks. If you're going to do this on a chair, you're going to come to the edge of your chair. You're going to come wide feet and engage the legs. So you're going to press into the heels, press into the balls of the feet, and then pull the muscles up like you're yanking energy out of the ground, engaging. So this is a seated Malasana. When we move, we're going to bring our knees forward. So you can do this seated. But this is engaged. Muscles are engaged. This is me flopping. I can flop. I can move. I can flop. We're not doing that. We're looking for that mind-body connection. If you are practiced and your hips are open enough, you can come to a seat on a block, holding onto a block in front of you. Long spine, engage the legs, lift up. So the block is in front of you. We're going to use the block if you're in Malasana. So long, strong legs. So strong, strong, strong. We're going to pull up from the ground. We're not just hanging out. We're lifting up. We're engaging. We're feeling our feet. We're feeling our base. And we're going to begin by bringing movement and breath. Inhale, center. Exhale, turn a knee in with the muscles. Inhale, back. Exhale, turn the other knee in. Move with the muscles. You should be feeling the muscles of the hips. You should be feeling the muscles of the legs. This is not flopping. You're slowly moving. Holding onto the block, you can maybe start to bring your knee down a little bit further. If you're sitting on the chair, just moving through the knees, moving through the legs. And if you're ready to try a little bit more challenging, you're going to get up long and you're really going to try and move that knee slow. Hold the arms out, engage the arms. Bring it back to center, legs open. So if you're sitting on the chair, legs center, hopefully you have a block. If you don't, just imagine you have a block. If you're going to place it in between the legs. So holding the block here, squeeze the block with the muscles of the legs. So squeeze, 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 internal muscles of the legs, long spine. Squeeze the block. And then little pulses on and off. Squeeze on, let go. Squeeze on, let go. We're trying to find those muscles in the legs, connect with what they feel like when they activate and when they soften. Activate, soften. Activate, soften. Watch for gripping in the back. Try to be really tall in the spine. And then let the block go and make your way down to your back. So even if you're on the chair, come on down to your back. You're going to have your block handy. So come on down to your back. Let your back land on the ground. Wiggle the hips. Feel the hips. Feel the legs. Take the legs to the ceiling. So we've been working the muscles of the legs. Now let them go. So just let your feet be up in the air with as soft muscles as you can. Obviously they can't be completely turned off or you wouldn't be holding them up in the air. But hold them up just lightly. And think about your feet. Look at your feet. Think about all the blood rushing back down to your heart, flushing your legs. Breathe. Think about your hips, your legs, maybe how they feel different from when we began.
Maybe even bringing the palms of your hands and making circles on your thighs. Bringing some circulation to this space, some intention. Feel your hands on your legs. And then we're going to bring our feet back down, knees up, and grab our block. So you're going to place a block back in between the legs, wide side, just underneath the knees, not right on the kneecap, knee joint. Squeeze the block really tight. So squeeze it with the legs, but the lower legs are not engaged. They're not pulling or pushing into the ground yet. So squeeze the block and then see if you can start to feel those core muscles fire up. Maybe press the hips a little bit into the ground and the rib cage a little bit into the ground. And then check in on the neck. Notice if the neck is gripping. Notice if the face is gripping. Maybe even bring our fingertips to the core muscles to remind ourselves which muscles we want to fire up right now. Squeezing the block still. And then squeeze tight and let go. Squeeze tight and let go. Squeeze. Tell yourself what it feels like to be working the muscles. Let go. Tell the muscles what it feels like to feel soft. Feeling the work, the let go. Turned on, turned off. Feeling, having an experience of squeezing, letting go. Squeezing, letting go. And then press into the feet. Press into the feet. Activate the whole leg. Watch what happens to the low back here. So if you tucked your pelvis and pushed your low back to the ground, untuck, push your hips down, push your rib cage down, and then engage. Keep a reminder that your core should be fired. Your legs are all fired. Everything's squeezing, squeezing, squeezing. Watch the fit muscles of the face. Soften the muscles of the face. Keep breathing. And now bring fists to your hands and the back of your arms to the ground. Press the back of your arms into the ground. Fire up. Try to push a little bit into the back of the head and fire up the neck also. And now squeeze the face. Squeeze the face really, really, really tight. Squeeze and squeeze and squeeze and squeeze. See if you can do a body scan and find any muscle that's not squeezing right now. And see if you can squeeze it. Maybe fire up the glutes. Fire up the muscles of the back. Fire up the muscles of the neck. Take another squeeze. And then suddenly release. So notice what that feels like. Grab your block, let your block go. Find your breath. Are there any muscles that still are not soft? Take a look around the hips, wiggle the toes, wiggle the fingers, wiggle the shoulders. Take a wiggle of the jaw. Squeeze and loosen the muscles of the face. Maybe side to side with the head to let the neck go. And then wiggle your feet a little bit wider than your mat. Press into the ground. Again, check in on the back. So if you tucked your pelvis, force the back down, bring it back. Bring your pelvis to neutral, the way that it normally is shaped. Push your hips down into the ground a little, push the rib cage down into the ground a little. That stabilizes you without forcing a change in your curve, your natural curve of your back. Press into the feet. Maybe even lift the toes to remind your feet and legs to be engaged. And then we're going to do that same thing. Inhale with your legs open. Exhale, send a knee towards center without moving the hips. So we're just trying to inhale, find the muscles of the legs, engage both directions as we draw the knee center and we draw the knee open. Inhale, open, exhale, squeeze the knee in. Inhale, open, exhale, squeeze. And if you like, you can play with inhale, open, exhale, squeeze both knees towards center. This does not have to be a large movement. We're just trying to find all the muscles of our legs and hips, our core. Check in on compensation patterns in your neck. Inhale, open, exhale, squeeze to center. Fire up the glutes a little bit. See if you are not firing the glutes. And then bring the soles of the feet together. Let the soles of the feet land on the ground and the knees open. This is a great time to use your blocks. So find where your knees naturally land and then lift them up just a little bit. Lift just a little bit. So we're no longer stretching to the end zone where any muscles are gripping. We're just opening. If you have cushions, you can use cushions underneath your knees. So we worked our base a lot. Our grounding part of our body, the part that's closest to the earth. Part that keeps us attached to the ground, keeps us walking, moving, feeling the ground. And a lot of the philosophy of yoga, the base, in the chakra system, the base is considered our sense of home, our sense of security. So many of us have moved a lot, have suffered through trauma, have had moments where we've lost that sense of security. We don't need to completely solve that momentous task in this moment. But what we can do is find ways to connect to this part of our body, our base, our hips, our legs, our feet. And like building blocks, we can take moments in time where we feel safe and secure in this body right now, in this moment. And build upon those moments, making a foundation of security, of grounding. So noticing how your hips feel, noticing how your legs feel, and most importantly, noticing what you naturally did with your hands. So this is a somewhat vulnerable and open position. You're laying on the ground, you're quite exposed. Notice if you've made a protective movement with your arms. Maybe you grabbed your torso. I see a lot of hands begin to clasp. I see fists made as if you're restricting it. There are no wrong answers. Notice what you naturally do. So just noticing and thinking about our base. Perhaps taking a moment to say to ourselves, right here in this moment, all of my needs are met. I can soften. I can take a break. I can surrender into the support of the ground below me. And again, I'm going to ask you to check your base, check your hips, check your legs. We are moving into a restorative pose. This is not a stretch. The purpose of this pose is very different from a stretch. The purpose of this pose is to soften and release tension. So again, check and see if your hips are telling you that they are too far open. Prop them up a little more. Move the feet a little more maybe. Change the position until this feels like there is absolutely no muscular gripping in your body. Check in again on the neck. Check in on the muscles of the face. Check in on the breath. And as you lay here, notice what your body is sending messages about. And then we're going to rub our hands together and make them warm. So really warm up your hands. And then you're going to place them on or near your hips wherever is comfortable for you. So someplace on your base. Notice the warmth of your hands. Imagine the warmth of your hands is pulling your muscles gently and softly down to the support of the ground below. If you're a visual person, you can imagine red energy being pulled down to the center of the earth. Grounding energy. Thinking about the fiery core of the earth pulling you down. Grounding your hips, grounding this space. Thinking about your breath, drawing in fresh. Imagine you could draw your breath directly to your hands. Fresh breath to your hands. And exhale, sweep away any tension and holding patterns from the hips. Inhale, draw in fresh. Exhale, sweep away tension. Soften your hands as if to allow the energy to flow more freely. Soften the shoulders. Accept the breath as it comes in. Allow it to release what is held. Surrender to the natural flow of your breath. And then gently rub your hands together again. Make them nice and warm. And this time, we're going to bring them to the back of our neck, right where the neck meets the skull. Feel the warmth of your hands. Try not to tug on anything. We're just placing our hands here to feel the warmth of our hands. Let the shoulders kind of fall where they fall. Feel the warmth of your hands. Think about this meeting place of our head and our spine. So our spine is our energetic highway. Our spine is what sends the messages from the brain to the body, from the body to the brain. This is an important highway. And many of us carry a lot of tension right at the meeting place of the brain and the spine, right at the base of the skull. Sometimes it can seem like we're closing down on that connection. Like we're clamping down, as if when we get overwhelmed, we try to turn it all off and stop the connection. So imagine in your hands softening this space, drawing in fresh and releasing tension with the exhale. And if you're visual, you can imagine a blue ball of energy, a ball of truthful energy, clean, blue, open energy right in the throat, and you're breathing right through the throat and softening the tension in the throat, in the neck, at the base of the skull. Rub your hands together again, and this time gently place them on a crown of our head, and we think about this space as the space that connects us to the rest of the world. Our feet connect us to the ground. Our crown connects us to something other than ourselves. We imagine through the crown, from our heart, through the intuition space, through the cognitive mind, we connect our heart source to the source of the universe, the source of our spirituality. And yoga has no religion. It gives you the freedom to connect with the religious practice that you connect with. So perhaps you already have a formed notion of what God or spirituality may be. And feel free to explore in opening at the crown of your head and connecting out to your own spiritual beliefs. And however visually it helps you imagine that connection. And if you have no particular spiritual connection and belief system, you can imagine from the crown of your head, you're connecting yourself to the energy of life, to the energy of all that's full of life. Connecting yourself to something greater than yourself. And even if this is too much or too big or too hard for you to grasp, just imagine something in nature that made you feel filled with awe, and bring that vision to your mind. Beautiful sunset, a day on the beach, a walk in a forest, something that overwhelmed you with a sense of bliss and awe, and connect to that sensation from the crown of your head. And then allow your arms to soften wherever your arms and shoulders are comfortable. We are going to move into a meditation. So make a choice for your body. Maybe this is perfectly where your body wants to be for this meditation. Maybe you need to adjust your physical position. Take a moment to adjust or land. We're going to do a meditation on looking at that inner critic.
So a little bit of a visual practice. Get to know that little inner critic. So imagine you could float above yourself right now, in this moment, in this body. Not in a young body, not in an older body, not in this right now body. Exactly as you are. And you're going to look at yourself laying on the ground. See yourself laying on the ground precisely as you are. Notice any snap judgments or thoughts that come up. And then as if you're breathing your breath on a mirror and it's fogging up and you're going to wipe it clean, try again, look again. Notice any snap judgments that come up. And then again, as if you could sweep them away and close your eyes, fog up the mirror, and just see if you can try again. Can you begin to see yourself exactly as you are, without those little voices, without those little judgments of you're too much something or too little something else? Try many times, just seeing if you can just fog up the mirror, sweep it away, and try it again. Notice if you begin to try to feel protective or sorrowful. Notice if you start to feel a negative emotion in the way that you judge yourself. Just notice, 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 notice. Notice if the cognitive mind is swirling around and saying this is ridiculous and you don't want to do it. That's also something to notice. And then imagine you could bring a second version of yourself, the purest version of yourself. Try not to think of it as having a body shape, but more of like an energetic shape. And this purest version could take a seat next to you right now and give you a hug, embrace you precisely as you are, and accept you precisely as you are. Imagine these two versions of yourself. See it visually. The right now version and the purest version, the spark, the bliss beneath the layers. Hugging you, embracing you, comforting you, and accepting you. And as you see them embrace, see them slowly meld into one. And then draw your focus to your heart center. Imagine sealing this concept of unconditional kindness and comfort right here in the heart center.
Allowing your body to surrender into the earth. Allowing your heart to feel the sensation of comfort and unconditional love and kindness. Releasing all control of any muscles in the body, all control of the breath, all control of the mind. And draw all of your focus into the concept of a physical sensation in your heart space. A glowing, a spreading, a comfort in this space. An opening as if breaking down our heart wall, our barriers, our experiences. Journeying towards the center of the heart. If you have the time to take to remain in this pose, in this meditation, please take the time that you need and listen to your body. If you need to finish up at the 60-minute mark, begin to bring awareness back to this moment. If you remained with your hips open, bring your hands to your legs and make some circles and just bring some circulation and awareness back to your legs. And then with your hands, bring your knees back to center and curl up in a fetal position, whatever side is calling to you. Taking a last moment to connect within to the heart space, the sacred space within us all. Some people believe that this heart-centered work can make us a little ego-centered, a little self-centered. But we get to know the parts of ourselves so well and get to be so patient with the parts of ourselves and in turn learn what patience is, learn what giving is, learn what kindness is, because it's hard to accept your mistakes. It's hard to accept the things that you don't like about yourself. And when we face these challenges, it becomes easier to accept the things we perhaps don't like in each other, to accept and not respond to the things we don't like, to accept and give kindness even when we don't like something. So we do these heart-centered practices to bring our heart into ourselves, to find our heart, to let it expand, to let it be kind and open, so that we may learn to give it back out into our world. So that we may more easily choose our words and our actions from this space of compassion. Finish up your practice by coming to a seated position, hands at prayer heart space, connecting your left and right sides in front of your heart, as if accepting yourself as whole and complete, precisely as you are. Send a little loving kindness right into the heart center. And then from this heart center, send it back out. And you can send it back out to a particular person, a particular group of people, someone you know who needs it, or someone that you do not know but know of. See them clearly ahead of you and send out this heart-centered practice, this loving kindness to someone else. And imagine that same visual experience of this person being embraced in loving kindness, in unconditional acceptance. May we all know a little more kindness and a little more community. Thank you for joining me.